Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at the DRF Friday race of the day, which takes place at Saratoga, going as race 9. It is the Grade 2 Amsterdam, going the 6.5 furlong distance on the dirt for the 3-year-olds. That's the local prep for the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins on the Travers Day undercard later in August. And Mike, this has produced a field of horses that are coming out of the Woody Stevens. You got 4 of them from that Grade 1 race, though not the top finishers in the Woody Stevens. So some horses that are trying to prove that they really deserve another chance at the Grade 1 level.
Yeah, that's a very fair way to look at it. I thought this race was really tough, David, just because when I got done handicapping the race, I went through it again. There's just nobody that I really like that much, nobody that I trust that much in this race. What I do know is I don't want whoever the post-time favorite is. I know I don't want that horse.
Yeah, I was kind of having trouble deciding how short to make the number 1 Macho Music and the number 2 Garamond, obviously the latter of which goes out for some connections that are pretty popular with the bettors. But as we take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race, Mike, I thought the number 1 Macho Music could attract a lot of support just due to the way this race shapes up. I mean, you take a look at the pace projector, it's the favors frontrunners scenario being flagged, and this horse is clearly fastest early. He's got a ton of early speed, and drawing the rail, you kind of know what the game plan has to be. He's going to see how far he can take them on the front end, and when he gets comfortable out there, he can be dangerous.
No, I agree. I mean, it does feel like he's the horse who will wind up on the lead in here because he does have plenty of natural early speed. I mean, you have to, in most of his races, I have to ride this horse a little bit out of there to get to the front, but he does have good speed. I thought he was the horse to catch. We'll talk about him a little bit more here in a minute. I'm not sure how much I trust this horse, but his speed does make him dangerous.
Well, let's begin the conversation of the contenders with the horse that we were just touching upon, the number 1 Macho Music. And I mentioned earlier, you've got 4 of these horses coming out of the Grade 1 Woody Stevens from last month at Saratoga. Macho Music was the one that was highlighted first in those pink silks. He was leading the field into the stretch, but you could see he's hanging on his left lead, getting very tired. Also highlighted in this replay were T-Craft and Gate to Wire, and then way in behind them was Gunmetal, who finished last in this race. But Mike, I thought that Macho Music carved out some legitimate fractions on the front end, but he did get out there all by himself, which is usually the way that he runs his best races because he's gone fast and finished before, but he just got so tired at the end of that race. This probably is a slight drop in class from the Woody Stevens, but I think he's going to have to run a little better here.
I agree. The step back in class, could certainly help him in here. And maybe that's all it will take, getting out in front of these horses. Maybe they just won't be able to catch him, but I'm kind of with you. I mean, the pace was legit last time, but it's not like the 1-2 finishers of that race came from way out of it. They just sat right behind this horse and easily outfinished him. You mentioned too, that failure to change leads in the stretch. That's a real habit of his. He almost never does that. That's an issue for him. And ultimately, David, when I got done looking at him, and I know he ran a big race against overmatched horses at Tampa earlier this year, but to me, he's got one race that makes him really tough here. That's the Pat Day Mile 2 starts back. And to me, he just really took advantage of that day, getting loose on the lead on a wet track. I don't really like any of his other races.
That's fair. He is getting a rider switch to Irad Ortiz for this race, though I don't know what Irad can do differently than Javier Castellano did in prior starts, and that's probably just going to drive down the price. The number 2 is Garamond, and Mike, speaking of horses that have one big number, that's certainly the case for him when he earned this 99 buy or 2 back at Aqueduct. We'll take a look at the stretch run of this race, and no, you're not missing anything. There really only were 3 horses in this race, but one of them was a heavy favorite. That was not Garamond. Cornucopian took all the money this day, but Garamond was able to upset him, battling back towards the inside. Though, Mike, it seemed pretty clear this was not the best effort that Cornucopian was going to put forth. He seemed like a horse that was reacting from maybe being pushed a little bit too hard early in his career. I felt like the inside path was a slight advantage this day at Aqueduct, and I also question the validity of this speed figure a little bit because the 3rd place finishers come back and significantly regressed in 2 subsequent starts.
I share all the same concerns. I'll just add on to that. And listen, I'm trying, I don't want to be too hard on Garamond. He just sort of did what he had to do there with really only one horse to beat, but it was also just kind of silly the way that they rode Cornucopia in that race where he was, some huge favorite. They decided to rate him for some reason, like that was going to make a difference. I don't know, man. I don't want to be too hard on this horse. I thought his debut was okay. I didn't like his Gotham at all. I'm struggling to give him a lot of credit for that race that we just watched. I thought he was really bad in the Pegasus last time, although that was a sloppy track around 2 turns. David, I don't know how good this horse is, and it's not like he's going to be some kind of super interesting price in here. I don't want him.
Yeah, it's interesting placement because I didn't really view him as one that was cut out to be a sprinter early in his career, even though he won his debut sprinting. I feel like he improved going longer, so we'll see if the turn back works for him. The number three, Smoke and Wicked, he is the most experienced member of this field. He'll be making his 13th career start in this Amsterdam and has really just been, clicking off some nice performances. I mean, once in a while he'll fail to show up when the paces get too hot or they run him in a race that's too far for him. But generally, in his sprints, when he can work on a good stalking trip, he runs his race as he did last time out in the Max field. And Mike, I know that was only a listed stakes, and now he's stepping up into a grade 2. I don't really think this is any kind of rising class. That Max field drew a really tough field last time, and he was second to a very good horse in Verifier. And I think if he runs as well in this spot, he's going to be tough.
I agree. I don't think this race is any tougher than the one that he just ran in, and he ran fine in that race. I've been a fan of this horse for a long time, Dave. I've done a bunch of his videos. I think some with you, maybe some with some of our other colleagues there. And I sort of try to make a case for him every time. I just like him. I think he's kind of underrated. He is a sprinter, and he's got tactical speed too. So there's probably another good trip coming for him. And here, I'll admit I'm getting a little tired of him. I would like to see him break through with like a really fast and impressive race, and that hasn't happened yet. But source is okay. He's going to be a good price in this race, and I'll use him.
I will just add, I know he was beaten a long way by Macho Music 2 back. He got badly bounced around at the start of that Pat Day mile, so an excuse for that race. The number 4 is T-Craft. He was also in that replay of the Woody Stevens that we took a look at earlier. And Mike, he certainly outran his odds to be 5th, beating more than half the field at 36-1. I think he was the biggest price in the entire race. And he traveled in behind the leaders, was asked in behind horses, never really had a clear path in the stretch, but I wouldn't say that he was blocked or steadied. It just looked like he was sort of running in place at the end of that race. A lot of horses where he was in that huge photo finish for 3rd, where I think everyone from about 3rd through 9th was separated by a length at the end of that race. So I don't know how much credit I really want to give him. And just one thing I've noticed with him, Mike, is watching a lot of the workouts at Saratoga. I have not been impressed with some of his recent drills. He's been clearly second best to some horses in the morning.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't check those, but it's interesting that you brought the works too, David, because I remember when this horse, like kind of out of nowhere, really improved to win his second start up here last year as a 2-year-old, and it seemed like nobody liked him. Even his connections didn't like him that much. So it makes me just feel like he's not a good workhorse. And they sort of surprised him that day to win. It did feel like at the time too, when he broke his maiden here, or when he ran second that day, rather, to Chancellor McPatrick, it seemed like a fluke at the time because he didn't come out of that race run well, but to me he's left that form behind. I think he got really good earlier this year. He just ran, to me, one good race after another, kept improving. I didn't think there was anything that fluky about the Winkfield win 2 starts back, and he ran fine in the Woody Stevens last time. I don't love this horse, but I'm not way against him against this field.
Continuing with the theme of horses coming out of the Woody Stevens, the number 5 Gate to Wire finished right in the middle of the field. He was 6th that day. And Mike, he did pass some horses at the end, but he was way back early. It wasn't a race that really went to deep closers, and he could just never really get involved. He was the horse that swung widest into the stretch of that replay that we took a look at. He ran a big race going 7 furlongs when they first got him on dirt in the Swale over the winter, and he's been trying to get back to that kind of performance since then. Mike, I wonder what your take is on the fact that he's just dropped so far back in his last couple of races and whether or not they can change that here.
Yeah, I wonder that too. To me, it's the biggest question when you're handicapping this horse and what you want to do with him in here, because I think it's pretty clear that if he drops all the way back and gets outrun early again in here, it's going to be hard for him to beat this field, I think. And you're right too that it doesn't make that much sense, because when he won that Swell, that was a really fast pace and he did not get outrun by it. He kept it in range and he still had a big finish to beat a couple of the horses that he's going to meet again in here. I don't know, man. I don't care about his Fountain of Youth. I don't care about his Pat Day Mile that much either, because he was too far back in a race that wasn't coming back for him. And no horse, you mentioned the trouble that Smoke and Wicked had in there, and this horse had a real troubled start that day too. I don't know. I wonder if he can stay closer this time, because I think if he can stay closer this time, he can beat these horses and he's going to be a fair price.
He should be a fair price. I don't want to make too much of workouts. I mentioned them with T-Craft. This horse did seem to miss a workout last week. He has not had a work in 16 days, which is not typical for the Todd Pletcher barn. The number 6 is Gunmetal, going out for the Brad Cox stable, and he completes the quartet of runners that is exiting that Woody Stevens. And Mike, he was the last horse across the line that day, which is a little surprising given the fact that he's a horse that's run some 90-plus buyers in his career, but he's been pretty up and down, and he's now has this every other pattern going. And you might want to note that his 2 good races were the 2 races where he got to compete on Lasix, the 2 times they tried Stakes Company, where obviously he can't run with Lasix. They just haven't been good efforts.
Yeah, that's a very important thing to point out too, because some horses just won't perform without it. We'll see, David. I don't know. He got away last in the Woody Stevens last time, and that probably hurt his chances. But it's not like he did a ton of running after that. I also thought his swell was pretty bad off of a really fast debut. I don't know. He's another. I just thought he was too tough a call in here. I'm not convinced that he's that good of a horse, and I didn't feel like he was going to be a great price in here. So I didn't really want him, but I do think there are a couple of races, at least his 2 wins, they give him a real chance in here.
Yeah, I had trouble figuring out what to do with him. I didn't love his trip last time, but he does have races in him that will make him tough. The number 7, Mati Gol, he is a horse that is coming up from Gulfstream Park. We'll take a look at his most recent victory, which was a big upset. I think he actually beat a heavily favored stablemate in here, running by that horse at 28-1 over this sloppy track. And Mike, you can say this horse has been improving with every single start and handles the distance, but he got a big pace to close into in this race that he took advantage of.
Yeah, he did. Like the progression he's showing for sure. He wins this race pretty impressively too. This is clearly the best race he's ever run. It's on a wet track against weaker horses. They're going to ship him up here and take a shot against some tougher competition. But listen, this race could have came up way tougher than it actually did.
And rounding out the field on the outside is the number 8, Uncaged, if they decide to run here rather than in the Curlin on Thursday. That's a race around 2 turns. They're considering, I guess, turning him back in this spot, Mike, and I kind of understand it. I mean, he won his debut going 6 furlongs up here last summer. That was an effort that suggested there were big things to come. It hasn't really panned out for this horse. His 2 efforts against Graded Stakes Company have been disappointing, but he was in way over his head in the Belmont Stakes last time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you want to say he was in just way too tough in both of them, that's fine with me. But he was not competitive in those races, so that's a real concern. Listen, the sources run 5 times. I like 2 of his races, David, but that's the real problem. He's run 5 times, and I only like 2 of them, and I'm not totally sold that he's going to be better sprinting.
Let's go to picks for this Grade 2 Amsterdam, which is the DRF Friday race of the day. And I do want to note you can get free PPs for this race if you're handicapping along with Mike and I through this video. Just create that free account at DRF.com and you can access those on the race of the day page. Mike, you're going to go back to Gate to Wire one more time. Hopefully, Dylan Davis can keep him a little closer to the pace this time.
Yeah, we'll see. I'd like to see this race run over a fast dirt track too, because I think maybe that could help him. I just wanted to be able to stay in range here, David, because I do think he's as good as, or at least as talented as everybody else in this field. If he can get the right trip, I think he can win. Again, it's one of those races I really struggled with it. I don't love anybody in here. I do know that I don't want the short prices, and I just didn't feel like Gate to Wire would be a really short price.
Yeah, I'm afraid of Macho Music, but I didn't want to take a short price on him in this race. And I just think the number 3, Smokin' Wicked, will be perched pretty close to him moving down the backstretch. And I trust him to show up. I trust him to get the distance. And he's probably not going to be the favorite in this race. So 3, 6, 1, 4 for me, and 5, 6, 4, 3 for Mike in the Grade 2 Amsterdam, the DRF Friday race of the day at Saratoga. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.